Good afternoon. We'd like to welcome everyone to the BROWZ Employee Level Management in the Supply Chain webinar, where our focus today will be taking compliance to the next level. My name is Brett Armstrong. I'm the Vice President of Marketing, and I started with the company back in 2005, and it's just been a fantastic experience to be able to see the growth of this organization and really the opportunities that we've had to work with so many fantastic companies. Before we begin, I should mention that we have both existing BROWZ clients on the call, along with other organizations interested in joining the BROWZ network. As I look over the list of attendees this morning, we really couldn't be more pleased with the caliber of companies that we have the opportunity to work with. We have representation today from the Fortune 50 and Fortune 100, along with many of the world's other leading organizations. For those that are not currently clients and may not be familiar with the BROWZ core offering, I want to provide a brief overview before we begin our discussion of employee level management. In 2002, BROWZ began doing business with the purpose of pre-qualifying and screening the suppliers that large client organizations were working with. These organizations would work with BROWZ to identify areas of risk in their business and then define the standards that they wanted to manage their supply chain against. Once those standards had been defined, BROWZ begins to work to configure our patented software to create a compliance program specific to your organization. Client organizations will typically provide to BROWZ a list of the contractors and suppliers that they're interested in doing business with, at which point BROWZ proactively reaches out to those contractors and suppliers to help them be registered with BROWZ and then explain to them the compliance standards that you've defined. Contractors and suppliers will submit documentation to BROWZ. Some of the more common documents that we work with, but it's certainly just a small sampling of a much larger base of documentation that we collect, includes insurance, safety statistics, licenses, and training. As those documents are submitted by your supply chain, BROWZ verifies and validates each document so that you know that you have not only the most current information, but that you have accurate information on file. As time progresses, those documents are going to expire. And BROWZ assigns a single point of contact not only to you as the client, so that as you have questions, you have someone here to support you, but we also assign a single point of contact to each of your contractors. By doing this, they work with somebody who's familiar with your standards and their business. In this way, we're able to provide the fastest path to compliance. As those documents expire, BROWZ proactively works with the contractors to collect new documentation so that you always have current and relevant data. Using our patented technology, this information is made available to you on the web, and using intuitive icons, you know at a glance who does or does not meet your compliance standards. These offerings, they became a part of the core BROWZ offering, but quickly expanded to include additional functionality based on our clients' requests. Today, BROWZ is a fully configurable supply chain management solution with compliance at the core, but with other additional services available to meet your individual business needs. The remainder of our presentation today is going to be focused on three of those solutions, specifically employee level management, the BROWZ Training Center, and time and attendance tracking. The remainder of our presentation today is going to be hosted by Pat Cunningham and John Bowen. Pat, or the BROWZ safety guy as we like to refer to him here, he's been with the company for a little over a year. He came to us from a large electric utility headquartered in Minnesota, where he worked as the corporate safety director. He has a master's in occupational health and safety from the University of Wisconsin-Stout, and he's been a delegate for the National Safety Council for the last 3 years. Beyond that, Pat is truly one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet, and he really has a passion for helping other organizations and individuals in safety to address some of the challenges that he previously experienced. The demonstration portion of the presentation will be conducted by John Bowen. John has been working with BROWZ since December 2012 and oversees the employee-level products here at BROWZ. In his first year, John helped launch the BROWZ Training Center and time and attendance products. John has over 20 years experience in software product management and user experience design. Prior to working at BROWZ, John has held leadership roles with R.R. Donnelley, BNY Mellon, and Global Investment Systems. In 2013, John completed his OSHA 10 certification. Now, before I turn the time over to Pat, I want to remind everyone that you do have an opportunity to submit questions to the panel that come up as part of our discussion. You can do that by going to the top of your screen and selecting the chat functionality and then submitting those questions to the panelists. We will reserve those questions for the end of our discussion today. In the event that we don't have time to get to everyone's questions, we'll follow up with you individually via email or a phone call, but we do want to make sure that your questions get answered. So with that being said, I want to thank everyone for joining BROWZ today. And Pat, I'm going to turn the time over to you now.
Thank you, Brett. I just want to start out with 3 reasons why it's important that people accept the need to take the proper first steps in overseeing contractors that you hire. And the first one is regulatory obligation. We've identified over 7 OSHA standards that identify the need for business owners and contractors to oversee one another's work. We also know that business owners and their contractors are not isolated from one another's shared liability. And lastly, it's just good business. So I'm aware of your challenges with contractor prequalification. A few years back, I was tasked with putting together a new department for contractor safety. And after we're done celebrating our new challenge, our new opportunities, we sat down and asked ourselves, where do we begin? And we did assessments of our current status, some gap analysis. We brought in new tools and education. We introduced the concept of standardization. But as our program matured, what we realized was the administrative burden of putting together and maintaining this department and program taxed our internal resources in terms of manpower and IT infrastructure. And that's when we reached out to BROWZ to look for help for these administrative processes. So I've selected 4 common employee-level management challenges that you probably have with your contractor prequalification. And I hope you recognize, well, I assume that you're going to recognize these as we go through them. From the perspectives of security and your emergency action plan, do you know who's on site? If the fire chief comes out to your headquarters, to your facility for a fire call, are you going to be prepared to give them a proper head count in a short period of time? Onboarding is another area of a big concern and lag with dealing with contractors. I'm aware of large outages or turnarounds where you bring in hundreds of workers for a given project. You can lose an entire day's worth of productivity. And also, is your orientation standardized? Do you have the same presentation given each time? Are attendance sheets posted, and are they accessible to those who need them? In terms of training and qualifications, how many of you rely on verbal assurances from contractors that their workers are trained to perform the work that they're going to be doing for you? And lastly, in terms of centralized database, do you know where the records are? Is the information current? And does everybody have access to those who need it? So I want to just review some of the types of data that we can collect. In terms of industry and regulatory specific training, many companies have the requirement for personnel who work on their property to understand the company's code of conduct and read the information and sign it. As an employee of electric utility, I was aware of our electric transmission group who had FERC and NERC training requirements for all the contractors that worked in their areas of responsibility. And I know these people had to track down all these workers who would report to a substation or something similar to that, and had to read them the information and have them sign and understand what they were being asked to do. That was very time-consuming for all parties involved. In terms of certifications and licensing, high-pressure welding, asbestos, lead, inspector credentials. These are all things that we can put on our database. Background checks and photographs. Does your security have access to that background information? They have photographs of the workers coming on site. Drug and alcohol testing is another area that needs to be addressed. Many companies have their HR department do the drug and alcohol testing, and that's a separate system. It's not integrated into contractor prequalification. Employee history. If you have individual training records, we can put them on our dashboard for you. We can also put course information, so when you go to review suppliers' work in a given area, that you can be assured that that individual, not just the company, has addressed that type of training. Orientation and site induction training. This can all be done in advance before workers show up on site. Many companies have layers of orientations. They may have a corporate introduction. They may have a business unit orientation, and then get down to the site specifics, which addresses emergency action tones, emergency response forms, personnel to go see for various areas of responsibility. And then again, is anyone monitoring the expirations of this information? Many companies use a 1-year limit, and some have even a tighter security on that as well. And then time and attendance tracking. Do you have a badge in, badge out process? From the security aspect, do you know who's there? Can you address the emergency action plan piece of it? Did you account for all employees that are still in your property? And then also you can use this aspect for proper accounting and billing. If you have time and material jobs, do you know that you're getting billed the exact proper hours for the work that's being done? So I just want to say that you can target your challenges and turn these into metrics. Everything covered today can be housed in a single BROWZ dashboard, and it can be configured to your individual client's needs. Again, this can all be done in advance of the work. So to understand the desired outcomes, you have to put the pieces together, and are you demonstrating your pre-work due diligence? And if you can say yes to those types of things, you're in a pretty good spot. I'd like to turn this over now to John Bowen, who can explain in more detail the BROWZ Employee Level Management product and give a demo on our BROWZ system.
Thanks very much, Pat. And while we transition the WebEx presentation over to my desktop, I just want to make sure that, Pat, you can hear me all right, and then I'm coming through loud and clear.
You come in loud and clear, John.
That's great. And in a moment, you should be able to see my desktop, and you should see the employee level management slide, hopefully.
Yes, we see that, John.
Perfect. So good morning and good afternoon to everyone. Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Brett. My name is John Bowen, and as Brett said earlier in the call, I am the product manager for our employee level management products here at BROWZ. So Pat has teed up a couple of risks that he encountered in his career as a safety manager, and I'm sure you are all encountering today, and risks and concerns that you all have. So what I want to show you here today are 3 products that we have at BROWZ, the employee level management data, the training center, and the time and attendance tracking, that we might be able to help you mitigate those risks through the use of our add-on products. So all of these products assume that you are already using the BROWZ main product, which is to manage your suppliers and their compliance. We're now taking that to another level of transparency by having you take a look at the employees of those suppliers. So think about it. Today, all of your organizations, they maintain employee level records for all of the employees that work for your companies. You all take some type of training, and you all have to track some type of time and attendance, whether it's punching a time clock or attendance logs. That information is tracked. So why shouldn't you be doing that for your suppliers? And BROWZ is here to show you a couple solutions that are going to help you in that area. So what I'm going to do first is talk to you about employee level management. And employee level management is simply the record keeping down at that employee level, keeping track of any trainings, any certifications. As Pat said, you may have requirements to do drug testing, certifications in terms of are they certified to operate certain equipment. We want to keep track of that for you in the BROWZ database. The way we go about that is we ask your suppliers to go ahead and input of their employee information. And you should now be looking at, I'm in our beta server, so we're not looking at production data. We're not even in a production environment, so you might have to bear with me if it moves a little slower than production, but this is where we do all our testing. So what we ask is, my fictitious company here, ABC Electric, is a supplier that would work at your location. And ABC Electric, we ask them to enter in their employees and their employee information. So if I take a look here, and if I do a search on employee last name and I type in the name Bowen, I'm in here as a supplier employee. We can see that BROWZ is now storing my individual employee record. Many of you are used to seeing that green check mark to indicate that a company is compliant. We can now take that one step further and give you another level of transparency. And we can tell you with assurance that that employee is now compliant based upon your requirements that you've worked with BROWZ to develop. In this case, I'm showing you an example of some certifications and trainings that John Bowen has. I can take a look at a detailed record of those trainings and certifications. So John Bowen has been issued a CDL license. Okay, and again, just to kind of give you the persona here, I'm looking at this system now as someone who is an administrator within your organization on the BROWZ system. So I have access to go in and view company compliance, and I have access to go in and view employee level compliance. So as an employee of your company, I'm looking in at the BROWZ records for this particular contractor employee, John Bowen, and I can see that he's got certain certifications. We've done drug and background checks on this particular employee. This particular employee also has hazmat training, and we can see that the dates that took place. And we've also got a policies and procedures guideline document that has been issued to this particular employee. So we can store that document online here, as well as the documents for the driver's license as well. So this is just an example of some of the types of information that we can track for your employees. This certainly is not an exhaustive list, but just an example. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch over, and I'm going to switch to another demo client that we have in our system. And I'm going to pull up, again, the records for this company, ABC Electric. And again, on this dashboard, you can go in and you can view the employee data for all the employees at ABC Electric. So again, you have that dashboard, green and red, to tell you whether an employee is compliant or not. So you can quickly see that if Matt Garrity showed up at your site, you could see that he wasn't compliant. You could hover over his icon and you can see why he's not compliant. And I'm sure one of the reasons is that Matt has not taken the online contractor training that I'm going to talk to you about in a moment. So if we take a look at John Bowen's record, we also have the ability to scan and store images. So as Pat said earlier, are you capturing images of your employees, your contractor employees? There's a couple ways that we can do this. We can, again, get the supplier to upload the images for you, or if you prefer, if you want to take those images at your security gate, it can be done there as well. So again, it's very configurable. We can work with you on how that shows up. So that's basically a high level, you know, we're tracking employee level information, we're storing it on our database, we're giving you the opportunity to drill down from that contractor company down into their employee information and pull up their records. So what I want to talk to you about now is not only can we store the information about the trainings that a particular employee has taken, but we can actually deliver that training for you on your behalf through the internet. So I know many of you today are providing induction training to your contractors when they come on site in the form of putting a DVD in and having the employee watch that DVD and then possibly administering a quiz to them afterwards. Many of you are actually training employees out on the job site using 3-ring binders and a presentation within those 3-ring binders. What the training center wants to do for you is to take all of that training that would normally be done on site at your location and push that out to the internet, get those employees to log in prior to the day that they show up on site. So when they do show up on site, you know they're fully trained. They don't have to spend the first billable hour on your job site taking induction or orientation or safety training. We want to provide that for them via the web. So what I'm going to demonstrate for you now is I'm going to log into the BROWZ Training Center as if I were a contractor employee that's been designated to go work at your job site. So BROWZ will work with your suppliers to get them user IDs and passwords for the training center. So each employee will have their own individual user ID and password. That way we can track who has taken training, when they took it, and if you want to administer a quiz at the end of that training, we can get individual scores for that employee. So I'm going to assume that I've been given a user ID and password. Again, I'm logging in now as a contract employee, and then I'm going to be coming to work on your job site. So I'm given the website of the BROWZ Training Center, and I log in with my user ID and password, and we make it very simple for them. We put them directly on the landing page once they log in and list for them all of the training that they're required to take for you. So in this case, I've got 2 types of training. I have an online training course, which is a combination of a PowerPoint presentation and a video, and that will be followed by a quiz. I also have a document that needs to be read by that employee, and that document can be a policies and procedures document. It could be some type of hazard document. It could be a lead hazard document. It could be an evacuation procedure. It could be a drug and alcohol policy. But it's some type of document that you want to track that the employee has read it and acknowledged it. So how does the employee do that? They simply click on the required training course, and this happens to be just a sample document. This is simply just a document that shows the employee. This could be a policies and procedures document. Again, it could be any type of document you want. But what's critical is that we ask the employee to actually acknowledge and confirm that they've read the document and they viewed it. The employee also has the option to print that document and save that document locally to their computer if they like. So once we exit, the training center acknowledges that that employee has now reviewed that document and clears that required learning off of their training requirement. If you go look at the training history for John, you can see that the policies and procedures document is now listed in the curriculum of courses that have been completed, and it shows you that the date that was completed. So if I go back to my training plan, so I only have one more piece of training that I need to take before I'm required to come on site, and that's this contractor safety training course. So again, this is just a sample course, demo sample. We would brand this with your company logo, your company color scheme, your company information here. We would have a series of PowerPoint presentations here. Then if you have a video, we could add that video and embed that video right in the training course. I'm just going to pause that video because WebEx doesn't do a good job of providing you audio over the WebEx presentation. But this video could be a 10-minute video, it could be a 30-minute video, it could be a 60-minute video. It could be one video, it could be 5 videos. One of the nice things about the training center is that if your employee exits the training course at any point in time, we will bookmark that and we will remember where that employee was so that when they log back in, they can pick up that training where they left off. So let's assume that this video runs to completion. What we'll then do is we'll present that employee with a quiz. I have a simple 2-question quiz here just to give you an idea of what a quiz could look like. We can do true, false. We can do multiple choice as we display here. So another nice part about Training Center is that we can administer that quiz to the employee and we can automatically score it and we can store that score. So in this case, the employee has passed with a 100%. We give them some instructions on how they can print a certificate. So if in your procedures you want that employee when they show up on the first day, if you want them to come with that certificate, we can provide them with a certificate that they can bring with them, on the site. And in this case, the certificate will have some detailed information. Let me just click on Adobe here so I can rotate that. It will display the course name, the date the course was completed, and we can put any type of custom text in these certificates that you want. Again, we'll customize this with your company logo. So that's the employee's experience in Training Center. What you can do then on the BROWZ side as a company administrator, you can come in and you can see whether that employee has passed that training or not by taking a look at their employee record within BROWZ. So we can see that that particular employee has passed the online contractor training, and we can see the training expiration date. So I think one of the real important things to remember about the BROWZ Training Center and delivering that training through BROWZ online is that it's integrated with your BROWZ system. So you could really deliver online training through any number of different types of vendors. But with the BROWZ Training Center, it is really an integrated solution between the online training that is given to the employee and the BROWZ compliance dashboard that you as an administrator use to validate that an employee has been trained. I think that's an important concept to understand. So I'm going to switch gears and now talk to you about our third product that we released last year, and that's time and attendance tracking. So time and attendance tracking will give you the ability to keep track of your third-party employees, your contractor employees, and the time that they spend on site at your location. Pat talked about some safety concerns, emergency action procedures. So, you know, if that fire chief shows up and wants to know who's on site, you could probably easily identify all of your employees through your employee badging system, but you might not be able to so easily identify all of the contractors that are on site. So with the time and attendance tracking system from BROWZ, you're going to be able to do that. So I'm going to switch back over again to the BROWZ system, and I'm going to take a look at another demo client that we have in here, and we're going to take a look at that time tracking. So what I'm looking at here is our employee level gate entry dashboard. So as Pat indicated, you know, if you need to know who's on site, you can quickly click on the checkbox that says, show me all my employees that are on site. and then I can quickly see from a dashboard view who my employees are, what company they came from, and I can also see, as an added benefit, I can see the company compliance status. So let's assume that you are a security person who's accessing this screen, and the employee John Bowen from ABC Electric shows up at your door. So I'm going to put that parameter in. Just going to type in last name Bowen, and then we can see that we do have a record for John Bowen. He is from ABC Electric. His company is compliant. We can actually see the last time John was on site. He was on site 2 days ago on the 4th. And if we click on the record, it brings up some more information about John Bowen. We can get a photo of John. We can see his name, the companies he's worked for, and we can also see some of the required trainings that we'll require of John. Now, John doesn't have any of these required trainings, so if we try to process a gate entry, we're given a warning that one or more employee certifications is missing or expired for John. We'll still allow John to come on site. We're going to check him in at 12:33 Eastern Time. And John is now checked in and he's on site. We can look at the gate entry details for John. So we can see all the coming and going of John over his history, and we can see that he's got multiple entries and exits from our site. So we have a record of that, and we can come back and review that record at any time. Some of the other things that we can do with the gate entry product, the time and attendance tracking, is we can create an ID card for John. I'm going to show you here just a generic ID card that can be printed on a standard printer, and then you can laminate that ID card. But you're probably issuing ID cards to your employees, but you may not be issuing any type of supplier ID card to those employees. The BROWZ system will give you the ability to do that. We can also integrate this with a card printer. So if you have a laminated card printer, we can integrate that pretty easily with that. So if we take a look at some of the other features and benefits of the time and attendance tracking, we do also have a reporting module, and there are a couple different types of reports that you can get. You can get that employee's on-site report. So again, if you have you have an emergency, or you have that fire chief that wants to know all of your suppliers that are on site, not only can you get it from an online inquiry, but you can actually run a report, and you can print that report out and hand it to that person to show them that you can keep track of that. You can also run an hours on site report. So if you wanted to see how many hours a particular company was on site, if you wanted to compare those hours with, say, hours that you were billed within a particular quarter, you could do that as well. So if we take a look at our hours on site report, we can run that and we can, for a certain time frame. So we can run that for, say, from January 1st through today. We can view that report, and then we also have the ability to export that report to either Excel, to Word, to a PDF. So you have the opportunity to take that report in many different ways. So John Bowen from ABC Electric was actually on site for a little over 29 hours. So you can compare that to any invoice that you get from ABC Electric, just as a valid check to see if that's the actual time spent on site. So that's very briefly the time and attendance tracking. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pass it back over to Brett, and he's going to talk to you about some next steps.
Yeah, thank you, John. I appreciate everyone's time today. You know, I want to talk a little bit about next steps. If you feel like one or more of the solutions that you've heard today may be beneficial to you, we'd really encourage you to contact us. We'd love an opportunity to discuss how we might be of assistance and share with you the best practices that have been developed over the last decade supporting our clients here at BROWZ. Following this presentation, you will receive an email from BROWZ with a link to today's presentation. If you'd like to go back and review anything that we've talked about, we would encourage you to do so. Share that with your colleagues. We will also provide detailed instructions how you can contact us in the event that you would like to receive additional information. But before we close out here, it appears this has been a great discussion, Pat and John. We've got a number of questions that have come in, so I'd like to just move to those if we can. And I'll throw those out. Pat, John, feel free to jump in and answer as you feel appropriate. The first question, implementing a program like BROWZ means considerable organizational change for a company. Any tips on how to transition from a current state of no pre-qualification to a future state of having a program in place?
Pat, you want to take that one?
I'm sorry, I had it on mute. Yes. The first thing I'd recommend, if you don't have a policy on contractor pre-qualification, I would do some benchmarking with similar industries of yours and maybe attend a local safety conference and get some networking going. But from there, you can probably put together a policy. You'll need a policy on how you want to deal with contractors. You need to socialize that. One of the things that we had when we started out with our new department, we did have a policy, but we weren't integrated fully into the system. So we put our information together, but I think what you need to do is looking back at what we did and what we could have done better is you need to socialize the need for what you're doing. And we got so focused into getting the work done that we could have done a better job of communicating within all the business units. Here's what we're doing. Here's why. Here's our charge, and getting their buy-in and input. And so that's what I would do first. Is I would do some networking, and then I would do some socialization of why you need to make some changes. And you know, lastly, I would reach out to BROWZ. We also have some best practices we can share with you as well.
All right, great. Thank you, Pat. One of the questions that came in, how is an employee who works for multiple companies handled in tracking required training?
I'll take that one. So that's a good question. So we can have a single employee have a single record within our system and have a one-to-many relationship. So we set up the training requirements at a client level. So you as the client designate, you know, what are the training requirements for your company. And those rules are run based on your company. So your requirements might be more stringent than someone else's. So if you take a look at John Bowen's record for another company, I may be compliant. But if you look at the record on your company, I may not be compliant because your rules are run differently against that employee's credentials versus the rules for another supplier. So it's really, the rules are on a supplier by supplier basis.
And maybe just to elaborate a little bit further, as a client organization, you would only see those requirements that are pertinent to your organization for a given employee. Okay, another question here. What is the estimated time to get a contractor employee entered into the BROWZ system?
So I'll take that one as well. So let's talk about, you know, implementing, you know, an ELM process. So it's typically about a 30-day window from the day you decide that you want to do ELM for us to get it up and running. So we really need to cross over a monthly release cycle to turn that on for you. So assuming that it's turned on, getting an employee's record into the system really just takes a matter of minutes. So the contractor just needs to add the employee save the record, and then it becomes part of that database. So from an actual data entry standpoint, it happens very quickly. Getting in the question of, possibly getting the training also put online, that also probably takes about 30 days to work with you to figure out what is the training you want to put up online, what type of questions do you want to ask in a quiz. So all of that process takes about 30 days. So I really answered it in two ways. One is, how long does it take you to turn this on and configure it? And then what the question may have been is, how long does it take to actually enter an employee record? And that's just a matter of minutes.
Okay, great. Thanks, John. And that kind of segues into our next question. Can you explain what type of content can be provided through the training center, and how is that uploaded or changed out?
Sure. So we can store videos, we can store PowerPoint presentations, we can store PDF documents. We can take and work with you to take an existing PowerPoint presentation that you might have, and we can create in a SCORM or AICC compliant. Those are the web online training standards. We can create a course out of that. So we can really take anything you can provide us in an electronic format, and we can put it up online in the training center. And the most common ones we do today are PDF files, PowerPoint presentations with voiceover, and full-blown training courses.
Okay, great. The next question is really two parts, John. The first is BROWZ configurable? And the second, does BROWZ integrate with other software providers? So I think the first question is really, am I limited to one set of standards, or can I define that based on my company's needs?
So with the experience that we've had with all of our customers and all the suppliers, we think we've got about 80% of the configuration out of the box for you. But no two companies are alike. No two companies' policies and procedures are alike. So we have that 80-20 rule. So we think 80% of it's there out of the box, and 20% of it will work with you to customize based upon your needs and your requirements. So with BROWZ, I think you're going to get the best of both worlds. The question related to, do we interface with any other providers? I'm not specifically sure what that question is focused on. So I don't know if that person can maybe elaborate on the question a little bit.
Yeah, we'll see if anything else comes in. In the meantime, we actually got another question. The question is, if, in my example, contractor draws from the union hall, does the BROWZ fall arrest training allow that worker to stay qualified for all companies he goes to work on, or only for BROWZ, customers?
So there's a couple different ways that we can implement this. So one certainly is that union hall can become a supplier in the supplier network. That's one way to skin the cat, and so therefore that union hall employee can be shared across multiple clients. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to kind of take them on an ad hoc basis and really treat them as one-offs, which really wouldn't allow that record to be shared across multiple clients. So we can do it either way. So if the employee needs to be shared, we can share it by creating one supplier as a union hall. So the answer is yes, it can be done.
Okay, great. Thank you, John. It looks like that's all of the questions that we've had come in. Again, I want to remind you that if you'd like to get in touch with BROWZ, you're certainly more than welcome to reach out to Pat Cunningham or John Bowen. Otherwise, we'll be sending out an email with additional contact information so that you can follow up if you do have additional questions. I want to thank everyone for taking the time today to join us. We certainly appreciate this opportunity to share with you some of the new solutions and products available to you through BROWZ, and would appreciate any feedback that you have along the way. Wish everyone a great afternoon, and be safe.